Hi, this is Carrie Brownstein.
This is DJ Premier.
This is Darren Aronofsky.
You got the RZA right here.
Rose McGowan.
Radiohead.
Aisha Tyler.
Tribe Called Quest.
Fred Armisen.
Prince Paul.
Javier Munoz. Seth Meyers.
Frankie Cosmos.
Flying Lotus.
Hi, we're Chaim, and you're listening to the Talkhouse Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Talkhouse Podcast. I'm Josh Modell. On this week's episode, we've got a great conversation between two friends and tour mates, one a musician and one whose job title is slightly harder to pin down. It's Langhorne Slim and Jordan Klepper. Now, Langhorne Slim has been making music for the past 2 decades, and while it's plenty varied, it also fits nicely into that wide bucket called Americana. For his new album, The Dreamin' Kind, Slim hooked up with a couple of guys from Greta Van Fleet and ended up dedicating some time to rocking in a way he hadn't really done before. Parts of the record offer a more polished sound than he's made in the past. It's the sound of a guy who's always loved to go for it, kind of going for it in a different way. Live, Langhorne Slim always brings it, connecting with audiences whether already fans or not, often by joining them right out in the audience. If you recognize the voice or name, you may have heard Langhorne Slim on a movie soundtrack or opening for the likes of the Avett Brothers or the Lumineers over the years. He's awesome. Check out one of the more rocking tracks from The Dreamin' Kind right here. This is Haunted Man. Now, the other half of today's conversation is a little harder to categorize. Sure, Jordan Klepper sometimes stands on stage and says funny things, but he's not exactly a comedian. He's probably best known as the co-host of the current Daily Show iteration, and via that avenue and others, including his own show, The Opposition, and a bunch of standalone specials, he's actually done some of the most biting and important political culture reporting of the horrifying era we're currently living in. He was there on January 6th, somehow managing to be funny amidst all the chaos. It's a talent that's extended to a podcast, other TV specials, and of course the stand-up stage. On a recent tour, he asked Langhorne Slim to join him for some dates, and as you'll hear, the two became fast friends. In this conversation, they talk about touring together and Slim's frequent trips into the audience during shows, plus the tricky business of legacy, the meeting of capitalism and art, and running into an exposed penis on the streets of New York, and how one should react to that. Enjoy.
Test 1, 2, test 3, 4. Jordan Klepper here.
I'm Langhorne Slim.
Do you feel a need to call yourself Sean in this moment? Like, who is Langhorne and who is Sean?
I was going to try to ask you the first question. You're too quick. Pretty much the same. But that's just the name that, the way I look at it, Jordan.
Give it to me.
All names are made up. Even Jordan Klepper.
Don't try
So
to.
Langhorne
Don't try
Slim.
to. You have to wait to the end of this to really try to burst this bubble. You can't do it right up the
No,
top.
I'm just saying. Did people go around asking Biggie Smalls what his real name was? Maybe.
Christopher Wallace. It was Christopher
Yeah.
Wallace, yes. And technically, Biggie Smalls was Notorious B.I.G., so yeah.
Right, okay.
He came with a couple different backgrounds. I mean, Eminem might articulate that Marshall Mathers is him as a person. Slim Shady is the evil side of him.
Yeah.
And then Eminem is what? The combos? I'm not as fluent in Marshall like I used to be. But
Yeah, well, that's okay. Perhaps an alias, I gave myself that when I was so young that I don't think I realized it at the time, but perhaps it does loan one permission to do certain things that you wouldn't normally do under your own name on a stage or in artwork or something like that. But I was born Sean Skolnick in Langhorne, Pennsylvania, and I loved old blues music.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of felt like I should have been born like a 350-pound African-American gospel singer woman. And I've just tried to do the best with what I got in this body. And so that was just like an ode to these like old blues people that I really loved. Who, you know, there was a lot of Slims back then. And I thought that was really cool. And I took Langhorne Slim, and that's what stuck.
Was that right off the bat? How old were you when you decided?
But you call me Sean.
I call you Sean. Although, but I also don't shy away from calling you Langhorne.
Which I appreciate.
Yeah. Do you like that?
I like it because, and I like, people call me Sean is great too. But I like that because some of my oldest, bestest friends will call me Slim or Langhorne. Mm-hmm. And so it feels like a true friend when you do that, Klepper.
There you go.
That's how I know.
I get a lot of Klepper.
It's not through your actions. It's through the language. But I call you Klepper for the same reason, because I've heard Sadler refer to you as Klepper. Mm-hmm. And so I like that. I love nicknames and all that shit.
I love a nickname, although there's a bit back in Chicago, in the comedy world, in the improv world, not a lot of cool people, but wanting to be as cool as you could be. And we had a fight backstage after a show about whether you could give yourself a nickname. And I jokingly said that I was going to give myself the nickname Truck because it was antithetical to my personality, perhaps still is. And that became the joke. And then the joke became a reality, and there is a core group of people who still refer to me as
Truck.
As Truck, yes. Which I think, like, you have to work for it, though, if you're giving yourself a name. There's an extra burden or expectation of effort when you give it to yourself.
Especially, I think, if you're giving yourself a nickname and then just like, going to school with it and being like, this is who I am now. People might not bite.
No.
What I was doing was, when I was like 17, 18, came up with Langhorne Slim and would go to like open mics and write my name down as Langhorne Slim. And so people started to just call me that from there.
Yeah. It's a good name.
There are times throughout all of these years that I have wondered how good it is. But like we said, it has stuck. I do like it now.
It does come with a sonic expectation.
Yes, it does.
It sounds like a name you've heard before and understand a feel, which in a world of like branding, in a world of understanding, like to hear Langhorne Slim, I think you're right. Like Slim, I think of Mississippi Blues.
Yeah.
I think of, and Langhorne has this, it's both authentic to where you're from, but also feels like a throwback. It feels like you're expecting blues, Americana, a sound.
Yeah. And therefore, that's both positive and negative, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
But maybe any name would give somebody an expectation or some sort of idea of what a thing's going to sound like before you hear it. But I've seen that in action where people are like, this is going to be some sort of country shit. When I first got started, they weren't calling this Americana. My biggest influence at that time was Harry Smith Folk Anthology.
Yeah.
And that really changed my world because I was listening to, which I still love, and I know you do, like punk rock music and garage rock and soul music and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, Harry Smith Folk Anthology kind of blew the doors open in that way.
I didn't get what was punk rock or even radical about folk music till very late in my understanding of music. I think it was, we've talked about big Bob Dylan fans, and I think it wasn't until I saw like that Scorsese doc, his first doc about Dylan, that had old Odetta and early folk stuff in a way that was so strange and wild and painting outside of the lines in such like gritty ways that I was like, oh, this is what feels punk and fresh and new. Like growing up, folk, I always thought just it meant old. I heard Jack White, I got to interview him once and he called Seven Nation Army a folk song as like, oh, it's a song of the people. It's theirs now. And it was like, oh, it's so interesting where music that then is everybody's music, but then is interpreted by these sort of more down-home, unique performers. Like, that didn't reach me until much later in my understanding.
And that's precisely how I see it, where all of the stuff, because you and I have now spent time together and we share a lot of musical tastes, I see it all of that stuff as both folk and punk. When it is music for the people, of the people, and there's a rebelliousness about it, and like a reaching and a yearning for something higher in the human condition, that to me is very punk rock and also very folk.
We're doing this interview, this podcast, this what have you, in my living room right now. And 3 feet from where we are, a few months ago, my family was out of town, which is a rarity to be alone in a space for a night. They were gone for the night. I had the whole night to do whatever I wanted.
I can't believe you're about to tell us what you did.
You think it was going to be dirty or sexy. It's none of those things. But I'm going to paint an image of right next to my record player here right now. I thought about that. I was like, what am I going to do? I'm going to blow it out. I'm going to do whatever. And I shifted. I was like, no. You complain in this fast-paced life of like, oh, I just wish I had the time to sit or relax or listen. I was like, I want to listen. I just want to listen to music and really just fucking enjoy it. And I had the Basement tapes, which I was like, I like the Basement tapes. I haven't really listened to the Basement tapes. And I opened up my fridge. I had a bottle of champagne that had been in there gifted 2-3 years ago, that had been there for 2-3 years. And I was like, fuck it. I'm going to drink this bottle of champagne because it's a beautiful thing that I keep waiting to experience.
Yep.
I'm going to sit in front of this album and I'm going to listen to the Basement tapes. And that's all I'm going to do. And I don't know if it was the inebriation or just the focus, but like a few things clicked there. What is it? Going to Acapulco, the Dylan song, the band and Dylan. It suddenly clicked that this is just a bunch of dudes. I believe the story of the Basement tapes, or part of the story, is like really it wasn't made for mass consumption. Mm-hmm. They were making some stuff that maybe they were sending off to be re-recorded. Mostly it's them fucking around. And what is sort of remarkable about specifically that song for me was like, I'm imagining a person who is very successful and could have a lot of attention in many different ways. He is just singing this lament, this very emotional song to just his buddies in a basement. and how vulnerable and strange and freeing that is to not be thinking about the economic elements or like, how do I sell this? How do I get 1 billion people to listen to it? Like so many things that, you know, in the entertainment world now, you're just consumed with having to think about, like survival. This thing that I do is a craft to achieve something. How do I maximize that? And in these moments, I'm like, this is people doing a craft just for their pals in the most vulnerable, lovely way. And that's such a rarity, a hard thing. It made me yearn for like moments to find that in creativity of like
absolutely
just doing it for yourself.
And I think Dylan is definitely an anomaly in that, and very punk rock in that spirit, in what you noticed. And when I think of him and a few others, something that I'll never know and most people will never know, that this guy was sort of godified at such a young age and just considered, you know, one of the greatest, if not the greatest. And what does that do to one's psyche? Where so many of us, I think, in the entertainment industry or whatever it is, it's constantly, which makes me feel sick because I do it in my own way. And then I catch myself and I'm like, you know, conflicted. But it's constantly reaching for what's next and what is more. And maybe when you have been to the top of the quote unquote mountain, you have to deconstruct. And that's a very punk rock thing to do, and find the rawness and the realness, because it maybe isn't enough to have the adoration of all of these people. That's the classic story of like, oh fuck, I'm still lonely, or I still want more. So that's like very deep and spiritual what you're talking about, I think, which is the essence of why you and I think got into what we do in the first place, which is the connection to the craft and how fucking beautiful and inspiring and challenging that whole thing is just incredible. But then once you start getting things around it, and not to speak for you, but like you don't want to, not only don't you want to lose an audience, you know, in my case or something, but you know, it's like, you know, we played a show last night in Brooklyn and there was quite a lot of people, but in the back of my mind, I'm aware that the show isn't totally sold out, or that there's a bigger place over there. Thankfully, the experience of the performance is what brings me back to that core of like, this is enough and this is what we're here for.
That's the scary thing, is when it goes from like, where is it a sandbox that you can have fun in, and then it becomes something that you get adept enough that it becomes a tool for advancement, and then those metrics completely change.
Yeah.
I definitely found such joy in not knowing what the metrics were, or the metrics were so far away from...
The sandbox is a lot vaster then, right?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
There's way more toys because it's like, I don't know exactly what I'm playing with. You know, I don't know the rules.
Yeah,
and that's fucking
I'm just
beautiful.
going to get into it. I'm going to bounce off friends of mine. I'm going to be inspired by it. It's something that I always think about. Like, I came up in the Chicago improv scene, and when I moved to Chicago and was in love with what this scene was but didn't understand it, and also as a kid from Kalamazoo who didn't really know what success looked like, sure, you dream of like these big things, these people you see on television, or these Monty Python guys or SNL people, like that would be great. But in reality, just being a part of it was enough and exciting. And I remember coming into the Improv Olympic, which used to be in the basement outside of Wrigleyville. And you'd walk in and there was a little wall. You've seen them in comedy theaters before with like 60 like framed photos
of course,
of like the improv teams that have been around or what have you. And I took classes in that room. I did shows. All I thought about was like, all I gotta do is get on that wall. If I get on that wall, then I made it. I'm there forever. I think there's part of that's also connected to this idea of like, where is the finish line so I can feel like, I didn't let everybody down. Yeah. I'm not a failure in some sense. I created something, call it legacy, or just like I reached a finish line. And by the time I got enough success to be on that wall, the improv theater was torn down. And the wall didn't exist anymore. And it was such a, like, both a metaphor and a reality of like, really, like you got to get that, like that wall that you're like, I just need to get on that thing that will always be there. Well, that thing goes.
Yeah.
And then you see other walls, but those walls don't mean as much to you. And you have to keep imagining what that finish line is. And it is so hard in those shows. I laugh. Like we did shows on the road together, and we talk about like loving audiences and a lot of people who are there, but it's more often than not, I walk off the stage thinking about the person who didn't laugh at it. You tell those jokes night in and night out, and I'm sure also in singing some songs too, and the thing you hear most is not like the laughter, but more often like how it rates to what the laughter could be and how you get that thing. Yeah.
Precisely.
Essentially, we're ultimately sad and broken inside.
Sick individuals.
So we need to find something else that doesn't fit off this constant need.
I do at this age wonder where that comes from. Like, I wonder if I had like a closer relationship with my father, like blah, blah, not blah, blah, blah. That's a fair thing to say. I don't need to diminish it.
Don't blah, blah that.
Don't blah, blah that, Sean. But I don't actually know. I think some people are born with like this fire that, you know, when I was a kid and I was having such a hard time in school and getting in trouble, and they're like, we know you could be a good kid. I got asked to leave my public school, thank goodness. Went to this like little alternative private school close to New Hope, Pennsylvania, and they were wonderful, but I was still being a shithead. And I remember this one time I was really being disrespectful. I almost got into a fight with like the guy that ran the school. And I'm not too good with my hands in the fighting capacity. And I remember distinctly them being like, why? And I said, because none of this pertains to my life. I had that ambition or that passion, and I didn't know how to just be cool in these other environments until I could get out. So I created a lot of trouble. But I just think that some people have that, and it's a blessing and a curse, because then as we go through our lives, this is going to be the path that we go. Because for me, there was no option B.
Yeah.
This was going to be. In my mind, I was going to be very famous and everybody was going to know my music, or I was going to be without a home with an acoustic guitar on a beach somewhere. And either way, it was okay because I had the music. What I didn't take into account is that there's a lot of gray zone in between, and that's where my life has been. But I don't know. It's a dance with at least for me, with ego and with gratitude and with expectation, because that line that you're talking about never ends if we're not cool with where we're at.
Yeah.
And I have that every single night, man. Just what you're talking about. It's like the show could be great. People are standing and clapping, singing. But unless I get into what like pitchers and runners talk about, like flow state, unless I get into, and we've talked about this before, unless I'm in that where it's like you're dancing with the spirits, I feel a little bit like I didn't quite get there.
Yeah.
And that I've gotten better at not like whipping myself about it, but I still whip myself just a few less times. But I used to like ruin the rest of the night, you know, and I would have to go to bed and try it again the next night.
As I've gotten older, I've had to figure out what the balance is with like being grateful and the balancing gratefulness and ambition.
Absolutely.
Where like it's a virtue to appreciate what is enough. I do think I talk about this a lot. I think about this a lot. I think like this capitalistic society that we're in, like we are just taught for more. Everything is growth and you need more and more.
And even if you think that you've danced outside of the lines, it has, because I thought for a while I did, but it got in there.
It gets there, right? That's you're like, oh my God, these are the biggest, deepest grooves that we are in. It's just this capitalistic society that tells you like, this is what you need to serve. You need to create in this way. And this is what success looks like. Get more and more and more. And I burned myself out on the show that I hosted, The Opposition, which was my own show, and it was a dream come true, and I got to work with all of my friends, and my one regret is that I spent 11 months on that show, stressed the fuck out, so exhausted, and then it ended, and so many of those people I never got to see day to day again and work with my friends. I kept thinking about it as something else, if not another show of just like, this would be around. I was like, that was it. You're working with your buddies, you're doing anything you love.
You have to have that experience to hopefully get that knowledge and put it into the rest of your work and life. All I wanted to do as a kid was to play music and make enough money to make a living playing music. That's not totally true. I also had ambitions of like, you know, playing Madison Square Garden and all that. But those were like fantasies. The real dream was making music, playing music. And I've gotten to go to all of these different places and experience all of these things, but I wasn't fully there. And I was either liquored up or just it's too in my head and my anxiety to kind of fully be there. So
it's curious thinking of those dreams of a kid playing these places. I had similar big dreams. I'm going to be Jim Carrey. I'm going to be this thing. I'm going to be this thing. And then you go through it and feel very lucky with the opportunities that are there, but also like the shift in what those dreams are. So much of this industry is obviously it's luck, it's hard work, it's these things, but it's also like, what are the opportunities that are presented to you and how do you make something out of what those opportunities are?
Correct.
And then also shift and create the narrative around the opportunities that you have. And I mean, I think about that, like the fields that I am in have like veered towards like news satire and what have you. That was a part of the things I wanted to do, but it's become much more clear because those are also some of the opportunities and some of the interests that I have. Like, I think it's so important when you are young to have these big targets of ambition that you aim at. you need a focal point to like push aside some of the chatter so that you can like aim big. But then you also need to hit a point where you can reevaluate what that is. It's where it's like that target needs to be a more understood moving target as you get older. It's a delicate balance of when you let go of the childish dreams and understand like what you want in your mid 40s, but also like how do you become one with what that dance is?
And one doesn't ever want to feel like you're not still going for it. Like I still want to feel horny for the for the art and the music. But I'm curious, because you were talking about legacy. Why do you think that legacy is so important to, because I will admit, which I feel a little uncomfortable admitting, but that has been an important idea in my mind. And it's like, really what we're doing is trying to create a lasting thing of ourselves by maybe sacrificing our living lives.
Yeah.
And I don't mean sacrificing it by doing the things that we love to do and making comedy and making music and making art. I'm talking about don't mean to speak for you. I have done it at times in ways that I feel less than really living, with a capital L, if you will, of like just grinding it, being anxious, being neurotic. And that's not really how I want to roll. Mm-hmm. But that's what the role was made with.
I blame some of that obsession. I wouldn't call it an obsession, but
I would.
You call it.
I mean, for some, not us.
No, we are totally
We're spiritually fit.
Yeah, we are living our best lives in all of those ways. I call it obsession or interest in this idea of legacy, which almost sounds silly to put out there, but the metaphor of like I want to be on that wall to me is a little bit, partially it's in growing up, like again, it's not our capitalistic society, but it's also our American society, that the statues, the things on the wall. Like I came Kalamazoo, Michigan, it's a small town, and I was impressed when I went to Washington D.C. and saw the statues and the names of the people that would be there, quote unquote, forever. That was always impressed to me, like, oh my gosh, they made an impact. Now I look back on that with very different perspectives, and
we get older and find out that most of them are total assholes.
Exactly. Like, oh yeah. And I think like the time that we're living in right now, like my faith in institutions is completely thrown away. Yeah. And also we're seeing quite literally, not to make it political, but like we're seeing things at the Smithsonian ripped down and taken away. Like history is rewritten. You're like, oh right, this thing can just be gone like that. And also my lack of spirituality or faith, let's say. I think believing in God or Christianity gives you a path toward this idea of everlasting existence. And I think there's probably a fear of death in that desire for legacy of like, I'm doing all this stuff. Does it fucking matter? Like, here is life. Did I do it well or not?
Right.
Well, I need to have some sort of marker. Well, traditionally, society has created, somewhat fictitiously, but created structures around religion that have given you markers for success or not success. Right? Like, are you a good person? Did Santa Claus come this year? Like, whatever it is, you did good. Thumbs up. You got into heaven. Like, there's a guy has a book at heaven, and he looks over what you did, and he said, you
Up
did
or
it.
Down.
Congrats. Exactly. It's like, well, shit, I don't believe that guy is there. I was told that Santa doesn't exist. So what is that marker? Somebody needs to tell me.
Oh, that's what's wrong with you. They told you Santa didn't exist.
They did. Honestly, they told me, my parents said, when I lost my first tooth, I freaked out with an over-analytical thought of like, well, this tooth fairy, they're going to come into my room. They're going to get close to my head, put money underneath my head. I obsessed over it so much, they were like, fuck it. No, there is no tooth fairy. That is the original sin.
How old were you then?
I must have been. When are you losing teeth? 5, 6?
That's wonderful.
Yeah. So I think that's where it begins. Where it's like, well, who tells me whether I'm good or bad?
Yeah.
And the answer is you do. Yeah. But that's the performer experience, right? Like last night, that's 1,000 people in front of you. Like you're like, am I good enough? Am I not? Is this all worthwhile? Is putting my family at home and going out to do this, is it worthwhile? You perform songs, and then you look in the faces of 1,000+ people, and they get to decide. They are your judge, jury.
But in that moment that you're speaking of, that's when I don't have these thoughts. It's every other moment that I have these thoughts. You know, you could have a broken toe or something and it hurts like a motherfucker, and you get on stage and the music hits, and that might sound cheesy or something, but it's just true. It heals it for that time. It heals pain for that time. It heals my neuroses for that time. Unfortunately, it comes right back. But when the show's going well, that's when I do believe that it is all worth it. And do you remember there's like a viral video, and I know you're not a big alien guy, but I have. And there was a viral video, beautiful woman on a plane, and she's freaking out, and she's like, "That motherfucker isn't real."
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
That's kind of how I've seen life ever since I was a kid. Like, I'd look around, I'm like, this shit is not real.
Life in general is not real?
Life is real to a certain extent, but it just has always felt very much like some people decide, I don't know who it is, but like that, I guess my point is, I wish I could articulate that a little bit better, but when I'm in the connection of playing music, that feels very real. Mm-hmm. Like when we were on tour and I would be in the audience watching you and laughing and feeling people's reactions, that feels very real to me, where everything else feels a little bit like, I don't believe you. And that's a dangerous line because they could put you away for that.
You're 100% right. Yeah. If you go too outside of what the narrative is.
And there's been times where I've gone a little bit too outside and it was scary. But isn't that interesting that you have to kind of exist within the narrative?
Yes. I don't think I began questioning that until later in life. At some point you realize that money is a construct.
It's dirty paper. And they could print it as much as they want.
Yeah, we just all agree that this is the thing. I think that took me a while to understand as just sort of a metaphor for everything. Again, this time that we're in has really shifted my mindset as to like, oh, these institutions are people. And sometimes these people are assholes. And sometimes these institutions have rot and crack that's within it. And then you see people that are like this American dream, this American idea. Like there was always a narrative as to what that was. It was very rarely lived up to, but like we are kind because that is what we do. And we believe in other people because that is what we do. And we believe in law and order and fairness and equity. Like these things we were taught, I didn't question for the longest times. And I saw cracks in that narrative, but I at least understood it as an agreed upon reality that we were aiming for. Yeah. And then these last few years, I'm like, oh, well, capitalism divided that and there's no morality here. And this person's just doing that because he has money and wealth. And this police force is not upholding law. They are just following orders and not paying attention to what is good or what is bad. And immediately all these things become constructs that we just agreed would be there, as opposed to things that have to be lived in by humans who decide that they believe something and move into it. And so I think that has left me a little bit more loose with that. I think you are right. When I do shows and you feel a connection with audiences, people will often ask me about like comedy in the world that we are in. And I think at the very least what these live performances do is it centers you on a moment, an agreed upon reality. In the comedy world, like that is a premise. If you can agree on a premise, then you can laugh. You can't laugh at the same joke unless you agree on that premise. And I think at the most potent, it's because people feel alone or lost or just looking for some sort of connection. And in the comedy world, it's like, oh, that person articulated something that I'm feeling. I'm in a space feeling that. And that still feels so resonant. I will say there was a comedian where I watch music and really wish I were a part of that. That to me feels much more communal, or like that you are dancing with something more. And I think there's an element of that is like you fall in love with the thing that you perhaps can't do. Like I think it's still a magic trick to me, but it's less literal. It has the ability to be less literal. It can be more abstract.
That's true.
And I think that actually is really helpful of like, it can articulate emotions and feelings in a way perhaps better than comedy can.
In that one can almost take it to mean what they need it to mean or how they receive it.
For sure. Which I think is so important with all art. And I think that's harder for comedy to have an abstraction. Poetry of comedy is less vast than the poetry of music.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
But there's definitely music to stand-up comedy.
For sure.
I got to see that in watching your show where, the slides are the same, the punchlines mostly are the same, but I got to see you,
you dance a little bit.
You dance.
Yeah. You dance.
And that was really cool.
And then you ride in an audience, which is so fun.
Yeah.
Well, you last night, I have so many questions and thoughts about last night, which was amazing. For the audience listening, Music Hall of Williamsburg, we toured together, and I got to see a lot of the songs where you are solo on stage, but to see you with a band and to dance with a band, to also wear so many different hats. That's what seems so fun and playful, that you get to be, call it Sean out there.
Yeah.
talking to my wife about it as well. I was like, oh, what? She was like, oh, I can see the parts where Sean was out there on the road and talking about Silver, talking about like these more intimate moments. And then also the moments where the band comes in behind you and then you get to be Langhorne, the rock star who becomes bigger like that. Like that dance seemed like a fucking ball.
It allows
so
me
jealous.
to do. Well,
so
come on up any night.
Oh, I can come up and I can talk into a microphone for a while, but you get to do all these fun, playful things.
Well, thank you. That's very kind. And also, it is really fun. There's a lot that I want to explore in my music and in my performance. And the band allows me, and the new record now happening, it's like my 9th record, I guess. So there's a lot of material to do different sorts of things.
Yeah. I mean, you're doing most of the record, right?
It's like the tour is like 95% the new record.
I mean, is that risky?
Probably.
Yeah. Do you feel it?
It's a really good question, and I don't know the answer. And I don't know that I want to totally know the answer.
Yeah.
What I know is that when I close my eyes and open them, half the room hasn't left yet.
That's true.
I believe that there's always room to improve as a performer and a songwriter, but I think the show is pretty hitting. And as long as it is, I think people will give it a chance. But in a way, it is maybe risky for people that know me from my older stuff and have been fans for a while to come and hopefully not feel assaulted by the new stuff. But
I mean, there's castanets at one point. There's castanets.
I just feel
Not
like
all. I don't want people to think there's only castanets. There's one song with a castanet.
Yeah.
But you're asking a lot for somebody to really buy into a castanet show.
I do ask a lot of my audience to take that kind of trip with me because it is, very heartfelt song about my son, and then, jumping into the crowd and playing loud shit and a few things in between. So I think it's asking a lot, but we give a lot. And in that, because we've talked about this before, and when you so kindly invited me to go on tour with you, so I feel very aligned with you in a lot of ways. But I think what our hope is to bring people together and have an experience that is uplifting in spirit and in soul, and some grease, something to fucking hold on to.
Mm-hmm.
I know you say you don't believe in God, but Ram Dass, who I used to listen to a lot of his lectures, said something along the lines
I believe in
of,
Ram Dass and Alan Watts.
Yeah, I believe in those guys.
I just not the God of the Old Testament.
I understand. But with him talking about God, he says, I'm paraphrasing here, but that there's many paths to God. And I like that personally. Some people I know will vehemently disagree with that, and that's fine. I think what we do, and this isn't taking me or you too seriously, but I take the work that we do seriously, and that there is a divine element there, that it's important within a society for the human animal to gather and connect and to feel this sort of higher vibration and energy through comedy, music, art, whatever it might be, dance, blah, 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 blah. I just want to bring that level of like commitment and, dare I say, like love to the performance, where there's a possibility of something almost divine taking place. Not me being it, but we being it.
Well, the divinity of community, especially in a post-COVID time, in a strange look at your phone time. It's rarer. It's harder and harder for people to get into these spaces. And
in a time where there's so much noise, we're in a post-truth time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I have no idea.
No.
Thankfully, I feel like I've been preparing for this without knowing it, because I've
with your alien shit, all your alien shit.
I've always just felt more comfortable, confused, and people that have seemed certain. And I don't know if you want to go into politics or not. I'm happy to, but that shit has always freaked me out. And I was even given the opportunity. I love Bernie Sanders, still love Bernie Sanders. And I got to perform at some of his rallies, 2 of them before he went on. And Bernie was great. There was an energy from the crowd with the banners waving and almost like frothing at the mouth. And you see it on a totally different side. There wasn't anger going on with the Bernie stuff, but it was this kind of thing that made me feel uncomfortable.
I struggle with that now because I do think this time calls for righteous attention. And I think that's very important for people because people are being taken advantage of. Communities are being taken advantage of for people who are not paying attention. It requires a vigilance. And so I respect that. At the same time, what you speak to is something that I've been seeing on the right, but I also see it on the left as well. And certainty is the buzzword in my head. Like, I went to a Trump rally and I came back so bummed after those interactions for many reasons. There's a lot of chaos out there, some hate, some cruelty. I came back bummed, and I went to a Brooklyn hipster dinner party, and I got caught with somebody else who had the direct opposite opinion. And I got caught in a conversation that left me equally bummed.
Yeah.
It wasn't that there was intolerance in the conversation, but when I left, I was like, what was it? Why am I so bummed right now? And it was certainty. I was like, I keep talking to people who are so certain in the things and how the world is and what should be done. And I may align more with one group than another, but I was like, this certainty to me, I can't relate to. It's like, I can relate to the uncertainty of opinions. And it doesn't mean that there can't be right or wrong, but for you to say that you know exactly the way that fiscal policies should be run doesn't connect to me. I have things that I'm unsure about. I think the arts thrives on failure and the risk of going out beyond your skis. The improv world thrives on getting out there and failing and getting back. So many things that I relate to has intentional ambiguity on an artsy way. Poetry in and of itself like grapples with the emotions that you can't put words around. And I find myself finding comfort in those things that speak to where I'm scared, my existentialist like fears about like the stuff that I don't know at age 46. Like, these are the things I don't know, and that is what makes me most human. It's not that I become more certain in my beliefs. It's that I think I become more aware of the uncertainty that I have. Yeah. And that's what I connect with. What I love so much about our tour together, I came home a buzz after our last tour, and the shows were great, and it's so fun to do the shows on the road with you. But the thing I loved was being in a van with you for hours. It was the best. And I was telling Laura, I was like, I realized at this point in my life, like, I've only known you for like a year plus. We met and then we got to spend some time on the road. I was like, but I can really connect with Sean because we can kind of meet in a place of uncertainty. Not in a way like we don't know what we're fucking talking about, but like you're vulnerable in ways that like the things you're curious about, the things you're passionate about, the way you express yourself in this world embraces the confusing times that we are in. That was like met with a time where I went back to bounce off of some people that I knew way back when and I couldn't relate to. And we've grown in different ways, but also like there's certain certainties that suddenly kept them away from me. I really appreciate artists, musicians who have space for those kinds of uncertainties and anxieties in life, but also just people in general who hold the space to be wrong and open about what that is.
Well, curiosity and curious people are the company I want to keep.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's just like different species of human or something. I don't know what that is. And I gather that with the advent of social media, that it makes it louder, the certainty, and people need to feel so...
These devices, they only reward the most certain of folks. And the only way to stay relevant in these spaces, if these are the only spaces that you talk within, you have to be the most certain versions of yourself.
Well, and in a social and political climate, I think all it really does is pushes people further to planting their fucking flags in left and right, where perhaps we need some other directions. Like, I also align more with the side that you do than the other. But I got major issues with it. I don't trust it with my whole heart by any means. And I long for more curiosity. A beautiful moment that happened before I got here. I was walking on the sidewalk. I went to get some lunch before I came over. And there's snow and ice. We're in Brooklyn. There was a man walking, and I was walking the other way. And he couldn't cross at the same time. There wasn't enough space without going on the snow and ice. And so I hurried by him, and I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me." And I hurried quickly by him. There's this old guy, and he goes, "Take your time. Take your time." He said it 3 times. Take your time. And I kept walking. I was like, that's the deepest shit that's ever happened. Like that was an angel like telling me, take my fucking, but it just really hit me. And I don't know where I'm going with
I'll tell you this, in the New York of that moment, also this morning, after dropping my son off at school, walked home, and probably on the same block, maybe an hour beforehand, I saw a man's penis as he was peeing right in front of me.
And he would say, and he looked at you and he said, "Take your time."
Yeah, I was like, no, move. And I had to move as fast as I could. I swear to God, that is the beauty of New York.
See, I miss that sort of shit because in Nashville, I mean, you see some things, but Nashville's not really a walking town. it does feel good to be back in New York and have these experiences. I think I told you this, but like one of the most beautiful things that I'd ever seen was in New Orleans. I was sitting on the sidewalk, and at the time I smoked cigs, so I was smoking a cig, and I was watching a band play on the street, and I looked to my left, and there were these two beautiful, people, a young couple, and they were passionately kissing. And then I turned my head further to the left, and there was a woman puking violently into the gutter. And I was like, this is everything.
This is everything.
With this great jazz music playing. And Nashville offers a lot, but I don't get to see have that kind of shit too often.
You have to be open for it, but that what for me makes New York the best city on the planet, is that it is all of humanity.
Yeah.
You can experience it all in a day. If you are open to it, you will see puking and love and the old man wisdom and the younger man dick. Yeah, like that is a morning. And you feel all the things. If you
did you feel like you looked at it too long? I mean, because when you see a dick, like not on purpose, I feel like you either look away really quick or you're like, wow, there's a man's dick.
No, I did look at it too long.
Yeah,
100%. Partially because his choice of where to pee was so surprising. He wasn't in front of a tree. He wasn't hiding in a car. There's no shame.
Yeah,
and it was just us on the street. So like his posture and his stillness, I was like, is that man pissing? But I couldn't quite tell because he was just as far away enough. And then as I walk up, like I think I saw a stream.
Yeah.
And then I saw a little mushroom.
Yeah, that's a good indication.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, that guy's pissing. Like again, he's not hiding it. And then I got closer. I'm like, what? And then I'm thinking, like, do I say something dangerous? Like, what am I getting out of that? But also the spins.
What would you say? Like, nice dick?
I think. Well,
please stop.
I would have gone more so the please stop. I would have gone snarky, like, thanks a lot, man. And then as I got closer to look at his face, I was like, this guy's had a long night.
Yeah. See, I have a little bit more room for that sort of thing.
Yeah.
In that was me.
You've done that.
Yeah. Oh, so many times. But also, that was maybe my least favorite part of living in New York, was that there's not enough places. Like when you're just out for the day, and then I might go into a bar and be like, I don't want to drink, but please can I pee? And they're like, no, not if. So sometimes they'd be nice. But and there were times where I had been a drinking. In fact, years ago, and I'm not proud of this at all, we must have been on tour or something, and I got out of the van and didn't know where I was, and just, ran up to the wall and started peeing, and cops ran over to me. And there's a real famous cathedral. Oh my gosh.
Right downtown by Wall Street?
Yeah.
Well, there's St. Patrick's.
I think
St. Patrick's up in by Rockefeller.
Maybe it was that. I can't remember, but it was like one of these beautiful and I certainly was not trying to make a statement.
Sure.
I just didn't know where I was. I'd been drinking and in the car for a while, not driving, and just ran and pissed.
They let you by with a warning?
I think they did kind of what you were feeling with this guy. They kind of, in disgust, were just like, dude, like, don't.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Come on. And I just apologized and said, you're absolutely right. With peace and love, I didn't realize where I was. I just really had to make it a pee-pee.
I wish more things nowadays could be solved with the come on energy mixed with, I went too far, as opposed to like getting your battle station.
That's why sometimes I get upset as a driving person, because on occasion, maybe I'll make a spacey move or something like that. And then if somebody has, in the past gotten like real upset, and I'm already sort of waving like, my bad. It's like, I'm already conceding I turned into the lane and almost fucking took you out. I'm sorry. Like, we don't need to like get out of the car and duke it out.
It's funny. We took a big road trip recently, and I wonder if this is a natural human phenomenon. I ascribe aggressive behavior to the drivers of the cars behind me. Like when I see a car right up on my ass, or a car in front of me who's making erratic moves or what have you, I think I imagine it being driven by like an older, tougher dude who I hate.
Yes.
Who is trying to shame me in the way in which I drive, that they're on my ass because they think I'm an idiot for going too slow and I'm in the left lane, or if they're in front right here, they're angry that I'm too close. Like I'm always ascribing a very specific type to that driver. And then to drive around and peek at them.
Yes.
It's always remarkable how that shifts, right? I'm like, I think my goal should be make it the sweet old lady. Like if it's the sweet old lady who's just trying to get around or what have you, like I could shift so much anxiety in driving and or life to just give that sort of grace to my assumptions?
Well, just to shift the narrative that what if it has nothing to do with me at all? Because most things that other people do don't. And it took me a long time to even sort of see that as a possibility. And that oftentimes I think if a man or woman is road raging, their life at that particular moment probably isn't that hot.
Yeah.
And just let them fucking go. But I've stopped doing this because my grandmother told me to stop doing it. But my one road rage move was that if somebody, if a light would turn green and I am looking off, and if you give me a little too, I always think that there should be more than one horn. There should be different horn sounds.
Oh, I like this.
One horn should be like, excuse me, the lights turn green. The other one is, we're going to fucking crash and die. And when I just hear the we're going to crash and die horn because I didn't move fast enough at the green light, that shit sets me off. And what I would then do is just sit there.
Oh, yeah.
And then I would drive really slow and they would get more and more mad. And one time I did it with my grandma Ruth in the car and she's like, Sean, people have guns these days and do not do that. I'm like, all right, you're right.
Do you do the bup-bup? I think the bup-bup.
I do that at the most.
That's a nice nudge. I think that if I hear
use
a bup-bup.
I hear the horn. I use the horn very infrequently, and though I like it in New York City, I'm very sensitive to like horn, and different sorts of sounds. Where I can be very startled very easily. I think more than maybe a lot of other people. So when I do get it. It puts the fear in me, and then I want to respond in some sort of aggressive way back. So now I try in my old man wisdom to like, this has nothing to, or it has everything to do with me. I have been sitting here at a fucking green light. Let's move. But yeah, maybe I'll give like a little toot toot.
Slowly.
Yeah.
Take your time. Take your time.
If you're pulling into my lane and I'm gonna crash, I'll hit the horn.
Yeah.
But I am not quick to beep.
No.
I'm slow to beep.
That's good of you.
You're quick to beep.
I've become a New York driver.
Yeah.
At my better times, I can.
But that's part of the rhythm of driving in the city.
Yes.
And I don't consider the New York beep the same as I consider, say, the Nashville beep or the Pennsylvania beep. Mm-hmm. The New York beep and you weaving in lanes, there is a dance that you are doing on these streets. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I respect that. I actually like driving in New York City.
I want to ask one question from the show last night that I was thinking.
Yeah.
You do a great job of interacting and communing with your audience. And you literally get into the audience multiple times. I think in your second song, you're in the audience, which is awesome. I love it. It's just so...
You think too soon, though?
I think it's surprising how soon it is, but not too soon.
Okay, good. It's pretty soon, but okay.
No, I liked it. Because then it doesn't feel like I don't want to say it would be
like a trick.
Gimmick.
Right.
Yeah, where I'm like, oh... Yeah, I've seen artists go into the audience before, and it's usually like, yeah, this is the song where I go in there. And I was like, oh, no, this sort of, it rewrites the rules of what this is. I would say it buys you, like you slow it, you downshift midway through the show, which is not, I think, surprising for most musicians, I would say. But like, you do maybe 2 or 3 slower, acoustic songs, right? Yeah. Which I think like buys you and also buys you your storytelling there. Because I think like you've been in the audience, you're talking to people.
Yes.
And they love it. I mean, how fucking great is that? But in watching you do that, I was curious, like what has changed since you started performing and now is that you're going into an audience now of professional cameramen who also have platforms that they perform. So instead of just going to the audience to connect with the audience, which you are, you're going to the audience and you're connecting with content creators. Yeah. Do you think about that? Have you had to think about that? Because suddenly your performance in the audience is now being
a lot of phones or like actual cameras.
Yeah, like
or all of the above.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think like now the natural concert experience, unless you're making choices you can't bring cameras in, or people taking photos.
Yeah,
I'm taking a photo and I'm like, oh, if you're in the audience, most people are pulling out their phones.
Yeah,
they're capturing it and then projecting it on somewhere else. And then I would also say, just not to be the capitalist in me, but knowing how this stuff works is, and we've talked about like, how do you use Instagram and all these, I mean, not to be an old person about it, but that's probably helpful for people to see. Like, oh, this is Langhorne Slim. He's coming to your town later. Yeah. I've seen my friend was at this show. Oh my God, he did this thing. Like it becomes a part of what the commerce of this is and the conversation of this. Yeah. But I was like, oh, I wonder if you're in the audience more partially because this is also a photo opportunity for people that...
So, interesting question. And no, I was getting in the audience prior to all
Yeah.
of the phones. I just very naturally like to be up in it. I sometimes on a stage, particularly if the stage is high, if there's a barricade, depending on the lighting, it can be difficult for me to feel the energy and feel the connection. When I go out there, that gives me a chance to like really feel the crowd.
Yeah.
And that's very helpful for me. So I love it for that. There was definitely a moment there where I remember the phones coming out, not last night, I mean in the sort of beginning of everybody having the phone and the cameras era. And it absolutely bothered me. And I found it distracting. I found it upsetting. I would comment on it, and at times harshly, and also then I tried to have a softer approach of like, and a lot of performers I'm sure have done this, where you're like, take a picture, sure, but like also we're here to be here, like let's fucking be here. Now, for better and for worse, I notice it less because I think we've become a little bit used to and numb to it. And also when I'm out there, though, like coming on the Daily Show, though they did a great job where I didn't feel like the cameras were just like all up in our faces. But I could be very, I'm not shy in front of an audience. I could feel very kind of shy or self-conscious even in front of a camera. When I'm performing and there's a camera or somebody with their phone, I just perform for them, or I take their phone and I talk on it or pretend I'm texting. Sometimes I go out in the audience and the guy doesn't know that I'm out there and I walk by, he's texting, and I'll just like put my hand on his hand or the phone. But I'm not hiring these companies that can take people's phones from them at the door or something like that. And it's part of it. The thing that bothers me, if I'm being really honest, is that when I see some of these videos back, they look like shit. So if I looked really good, and they're putting it up there and helping spread the word, then I'm fine with it. It doesn't bother me that much at this point. I've got a question for you.
Ooh, what do you got?
And this is maybe too much, but how in what you do, in all of the news that you must consume, and just as anybody in this life, in this culture, it's just so much noise, so much information. A lot of it, particularly at the moment, is so horrendous, like to the point where we laugh that I like conspiracy theories, but it turns out, holy shit.
There's more truth in those. Yeah, sure. Then maybe I thought initially.
Maybe. But how do you leave that at work, or how do you stay hopeful, or how do you kind of keep it in check? You must be, I would assume, ruminating constantly to come up with material.
I've gotten a little bit better at not trying to consume all of it. I think I've gotten caught under that before, that undertow of like, I'm not going to be prepared if I don't know these kinds of things. I did a podcast with Ryan Holiday a while back, and this author, Stoic philosopher, really thoughtful, smart guy, and I was asking him similar questions as somebody who's just a voracious reader, and he's aware of the news and he's watching the news, but he just talked about how much he just got from just reading books so he could contemplate and think about stuff, and how many structures are repetitive within books. Now, I think my job doesn't allow me to shut off the news, and I'm compelled by the news. I'm interested in the news. I am also aware of the parts of the news that are entertainment.
Right. And
then I need to be aware of what's being talked about on even, X if I'm hosting and putting a show together. But I think like the compulsive nature to constantly read the news is not helpful for anybody. And a couple little things I've done is I try not to read the news before I've had a bit of a morning routine. For a while, I was getting up and I was reading freaking editorials the first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is somebody else's opinion.
Yeah.
You have to have your own opinion first before you ingest somebody else's opinion. Just give yourself space. I need to sit in my own thoughts, and these devices will own your attention. Mm-hmm. They will pull you away from your own thoughts. You need to sit in front of your vinyl and listen to all of the basement tapes, because it's amazing if you let yourself go that deep. Yeah. And also I realized creatively, I need to allow myself to have some rumination, some stuff that's beyond the first thought. And so it's a balance, and having a kid helps you out a bunch. Yeah. Because it also coincides with like what makes you a good parent is like, you're not on your phone, you're not full of anxiety. You are aware of what's happening, but you are connected to that human that is in that space. So mornings, I have one job, and it's get my little one off to school. If I can keep the news away, then I do. I ingest it while I'm at work. And then, boy, like reading, music, and art to me are just like great resets.
Yeah.
And that desire for abstraction is where I find like a little bit of, if not hope, like connection and beauty. You know, we talk about this all the time. Like, I love it with music. I love it with, I go to the MoMA. I was just up at Mass MoCA recently. Abstract art, get weird, get strange, try to connect on a different plane that I can't totally figure it out, but I feel something different, because I think where I feel so anxious is when I'm reading news and it feels like the world is on fire. There's nothing you can do about it. These are the structures that exist. And the bad guys with all the money and who are selfish are just going to write all the rules and just fucking deal. And then it's nice to step somewhere else and to read a poem that is ambiguous with intention, that allows me to think somebody's felt these strange things before, or to see art that is like, what if we think about it in a totally different way? And to translate that a little bit of that to work, I've always found creatively, when I'm in those ruts, my answer isn't like, well, study more comedy or study more news. My answer is like, find somebody who doesn't do what you do.
Totally.
See how they do it in their own way. Like, how they structure it might be really interesting to you in a way, or the fact that they can speak to something in a beautiful, other strange way, that might inform you, or at the very least, like, let you feel like there are other spaces to explore.
It ignites something.
Yeah.
And I love everything that you just said, and find weird and beautiful places and weird and beautiful people and weird and beautiful art. And that's also where I find hope in being a father.
Oh my God. I mean, that's the, sorry.
At the end of this, Klepper dies.
Find hope and a little bit of water. And being a dad. I mean, right? It's like, it's also not that complicated. Find beauty and fucking love the ones you're with.
Love the ones you're with.
Not in a cynical, try to sleep with other people, Neil Young way. Was that Neil Young? Was that Cosby Stills?
Oh, yeah. No.
Love the one you with?
Love the one you with. Who the fuck did that?
Isn't that about like, yeah.
No, if you can't be with the one you love, honey, love the one you're with. Oh yeah, so that's a little less romantic.
Yeah, we're not saying that with your kids, but it is like, we joke on the road, but having kids at home, like, it's the most beautiful thing, and it grounds you, and these are people who are affected by the news but are not caught up in it. And your whole job is to help them find who they are, help them see some beauty, and keep them safe.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, those are pretty good marching orders.
If there is a silver lining in these times, perhaps, because I feel I'm a newer father, my son is 2, so maybe that's just how I would have felt regardless of any time in history that I might have become a dad. But what I'm trying to say is, with all of this news constantly just fucking us up, I do feel a deep commitment and desire to be more present and more focused with the ones that I love and that have chosen me and that I've chosen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your presence.
Thank you for your presence. Thanks for choosing me. I will always choose you, Klepper.
I will always choose you, Langhorne.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Talkhouse Podcast, and thanks to Langhorne Slim and Jordan Klepper for chatting. If you liked what you heard, please check out all the great stuff at talkhouse.com and follow us on your favorite podcasting platform. This episode was produced by Myron Kaplan, and the Talkhouse theme is composed and performed by The Range. See you next time.